Hello and welcome to this video on identifying duplicate values in a row. This video is in response to a question from one of our subscribers. So if you're interested in a video on a certain topic, please let me know, as it's always good to know that I'm producing content that you're interested in. Now this data set has 4 different names over 5 rows, and we want to find out if there are duplicates in each of those rows. Now Excel does have a duplicate option in conditional formatting, so we could select the names in that first row, come to Home, Conditional Formatting, highlight cells rules and duplicate values. And I'll just proceed with the default colour here because this is not ultimately what we want to do. But if I click OK, we can see that it's working. It identifies Sally quite easily there, and I haven't had to do any crazy formulas or other Excel magic. But the problem here is it's only that row, and I could go to conditional formatting, manage rules, look at the rules on this worksheet, and I could duplicate that rule for each row of my data. And there's only 5 here, but that is not a wise decision. That's not the best way of doing this. And unfortunately, that conditional formatting rule is not up to our task, because if I undo that rule and then try and apply it to my entire data set, then doing this is going to look at duplicates across them all. So I can see, for example, that Keith, who's duplicated across different rows, has been identified, but that's not the functionality we want. We want each row to be treated as a separate rule. So let's undo that again. Now we're going to use a formula, and I'm sure you saw that coming. The function we want is COUNTIFS. We will count the occurrences of the names, and if they occur more than once, therefore it is a duplicate. This formula can obviously be adapted because you may be looking for names or other values that occur more than twice or more than 3 times. There may be a particular threshold that you're after. For us, more than once is that duplicate value. So I'm going to write the formula in a cell first. Always encouraged to do that, and then we can copy it into conditional formatting, much easier than writing it into conditional formatting directly. I'm going to write this formula in cell F2 here. So equals COUNTIFS. The criteria range is the range of names, and I'll just specify that first row, and then I'll use my F4 key to move through the different reference types. And what I'm looking to do is fix the column, but not the row. So when we apply this to conditional formatting, I will be selecting all 5 rows and all 4 columns. And I want to tell the conditional formatting rule that it needs to look at each row of my data set, to move to row 3, row 4, but do not shift off those columns. Comma asks me for criteria, and I'll select that single cell for B2, leaving that relative so that it does move across rows and columns, therefore checking each and every name. Close bracket and the logical expression of greater than 1. Now pressing enter here tells me that it is true. Sally does occur in that range more than once. And if I select that formula, copy it to the right, and then copy it down to kind of map my data set, I can see that Sally's been identified each time, whereas Michelle and Jonathan are not duplicated. And then looking at row 4 of the data, row 5 of the sheet, we can see Brian has also been identified. This is great, the formula works. Let's bring it into the conditional formatting rule. So I'm going to come back to my first formula, take a copy of it, a right click will suffice right now, escape to abort that cell, select the range that I'm looking to apply formatting to, conditional formatting, new rule, so that I can access the user formula to determine the cells to format, and I'll paste in the formula in that box. I can then specify the formatting I want. I'll just choose a fill colour for now. I will go for a green, I think, and I'll go for a bold font so it's very clear, and OK out of each window. And we can see that the task is complete. Sally identified twice, Brian identified twice, and let's check this. If I come in and put Geeta for name 1 of week 3, then it identifies Geeta. And the formula that we wrote in cell F2 and beyond is no longer needed, so I can clear those out. They were just there to help me prepare the formula ready for the rule. So mission accomplished. But let's look at a related task that maybe we want to know how many duplicates are occurring within that row. Now we're going to look at 2 variations of the formula here. We'll look at a 365/Excel 2021 technique, and then we'll look at one that works across all versions. So beginning with the 365 version, I'm going to start with a formula called columns, which simply tells you how many columns are in a given range or array. And I'm going to just give it the range of B2 to E2. So clearly the answer is 4, but we just want to return how many names there are here. And then what we're going to do is subtract from that. Once we know the total count of names, I want to subtract from that how many distinct values there are. And to achieve that, I'm going to use the COUNT function, count all non-blank cells, and use it with unique. So unique is a function that is only available in Excel 365, Excel Online, it should be mentioned, and Excel 2021. So this is the modern approach. I'm going to use this unique function, tell it to tell me the distinct names in that range, and then also choose argument 2 to return the uniques across columns, not the default of across rows. So we'll specify true for that, close unique, close count A. And pressing enter tells us there is 1 duplicate in the first row, and bringing that down, there's also one in week 3 and also week 4. But let's test this. Maybe I type Michelle over David here in name 4. Michelle, so now she occurs as a duplicate, and it tells me there's 2 duplicates in that row, and also the conditional formatting has kicked in. So I'm just going to undo that last step. So David is back in week 4, and that was our example for 365. How many columns, and then unique, making the task of returning the number of distinct names reasonably simple. But how would we do this in older versions of Excel? Let me do this in a separate column. So I'll come into cell G2, and let's do this again. So we will begin in the same manner. I'll use the columns function on the range of names and subtract the number of distinct values. But to achieve that this time, we're going to bring in sum product. Incredible function that can handle arrays. And we'll put 1 divided by COUNTIFS. Now I do actually have a separate video on this channel. It's quite an old video that shows how to do the formula I'm writing right now, counting the distinct values before unique came around. So if you're interested in knowing how this works, I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. For now though, just carrying on, I'm going to select the range, comma, and then select the range again. So it's going to return this array of how many times those names occur. And sum products will handle that. Close COUNTIFS, close sum product, and pressing enter and filling it down, the same results as before. Let's do the check with Michelle, and they both come up as 2. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel to get the latest videos. Click that bell to get that notification. Thank you, take care, and I'll see you again soon.